It's like watching. I went and saw the Batman this past weekend.
They call it The Batman. That's like what the movie is called, The Batman.
But the Batman is like a common thing.
Yeah.
It's been around.
Okay.
Like that phrase has been around for a long time.
The Batman.
Yeah, there's like cartoons. There's a cartoon called The Batman. There's comics of the Batman. But
If
that
I
was
could have any superpowers, it would be Batman's because he's just rich.
Yeah. I like
I'd
well,
be chill with that
actually, his
superpower.
superpower is defined as peak human because he's trained on the mountaintops and he's master of like ninjutsu and he's also rich.
I would
But,
just really go with once we got the rich part, I'd be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
smart.
I digress.
Very intelligent.
Sorry.
That was a movie where I was, it starts off like pretty good and then slowly gets worse, but never ends. It just doesn't stop. It's like we've caught the bad guy, and I'm like, well, it's finally over. And there's an act 4, and I'm like, okay. And then they introduce a whole bunch of random plot elements, and I'm like, okay, at this point, and I feel like that movie was a great way to understand life in the past decade.
Oh, you
Where it's
think
like-
it's over and then it just keeps going and gets worse?
But more and more absurd.
Yeah.
Like, we went from we've got a pandemic then we got so a pandemic started. Get this. Let's recount the past couple of years. A pandemic starts, all right? Everyone's like, we're shutting down. The president, who's Donald Trump, by the way, gets on TV and says, we're going to be banning travel with Europe. And I'm sitting there with my friends, and we're like, whoa, it's getting serious. And then 2 months later, the biggest riots we've seen in 5 decades,
Right.
billions of dollars in damage, 30 plus dead. And I'm like, isn't a pandemic happening? And then we're like, whoa, back to the pandemic. And then I'm like, okay, that didn't end. Intermittent in all of that is like escalation of civil war, people being killed in the streets, and it's like, man, the more we see this stuff, the more it feels like the country is going to collapse, and then all of a sudden World War III starts.
Right.
It's just like, okay, it really feels like someone,
And you have the new president. Just go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know the president's Joe Biden now.